I'm gonna level with you. There's a lot of video games out there, and most of them don't make a lot of sense when held up to minor scrutiny, even the popular ones. Whether you're playing as a blue hedgehog who can just bipedally run the speed of sound for some reason, or a mute elven twink whose job is saving an entire kingdom from an evil pigman every few years, there's not a lot of logic behind the games we play. So why shouldn't I, in this world of so many choices, be able to play as a slice of wholemeal bread? Who does it harm, I ask you, were I to take control of this wheat slab and just slap it end over end across this kitchen and call it a gaming experience? Though it might not make sense, the good news is that this is arguably the best game about bread ever made. So keep those buns in your seat and get bready for a review that will leave you feeling, incredible. Welcome to Random Game Reviews. I put every game in the PlayStation Store into a spreadsheet and let my AI pal Woodlebot randomly assign me a game to play. For this episode, I let my viewers on YouTube request what they wanted to see me review and had Woodlebot pick randomly from that list, which is why this time I reviewed I Am Bread. Every time I do one of these episodes, I try to find some kind of gimmick if I can to make the episode feel unique and fun. But when the game is sentient bread, like, the heck am I supposed to do? The game is so far into gimmick territory that I just have to let it take me along for the ride. The goal of I Am Bread is to bust free from your loaf and navigate the treachery of whatever room you're in, so you can turn yourself into toast by any means necessary. That might mean inserting yourself into a toaster, activating a hairdryer, or committing some light terrorism. But how does one pilot a slice of bread? Each one of the 4 shoulder buttons on your controller is mapped to a bread corner. By grabbing a surface with one corner or side and moving your control stick, you compel your bread into action. And as if just existing wasn't hard enough, you have to be keenly aware of your grip meter. Your bread can only cling to things for so long before its bread fingers get tired, because infinite bread grip would just be silly. Could you imagine? No, you can't have that. I Am Bread follows in a proud line of games like Octodad and QWOP, where suffering through the indignity of trying to even slightly move your unwieldy avatar is the gameplay loop. And since I'm of the opinion that you can accomplish greatness if you're just willing to be really stupid, this game gels with me. Sure, it took me a long time to find any kind of rhythm, slowly flipping across a kitchen with no confidence that I'm pressing the right button at any given time. Did I get covered in disgusting ants? Sure. Did I miscalculate a lot of jumps and end up on the floor rendered unfit for human consumption? Big time. But I also honed my craft, patenting such moves as the Cincinnati skillet flip, the 1-2 wall skidoo, and the newspaper raft. Movement itself is basically a physics puzzle. Whether you swing around one corner at a time, go end over end, or fling yourself breadlong into glory depends largely on situational context. For instance, do you climb up the side of the toaster and then struggle to flip over the edge into the toast slot? Or do you drop down from the cupboard above like a total genius? This game is fun, but in that stay up late with your friends on a Friday night giggling at something dumb kind of way. And since trying to do pretty much anything in this game is such a Sisyphusian ordeal, when you manage to actually toast yourself on top of this TV you just smashed with a bowling ball, it can feel like quite the accomplishment. But it's not enough to just become toast. You want to be the best toast you can be, which is why you'll be rated on edibility and deliciousness. You can positively influence your tasty factor by doing things like slathering yourself in delicious jam. To keep up your edibility rating, you need to make sure that you don't get nasty on your journey, which means don't touch any moldy walls or gross gunk, and don't even think about touching the floor. Being on the floor rapidly reduces edibility, turning this whole exercise into a very bizarre rendition of Flora's lava. Falling in the sink is also not great for your toasty ambitions. As a quick aside, since you can grab any object you encounter, one of the more rewarding things you can do in this game is just break stuff like a bored house cat. I probably had more fun breaking things for no good reason than I had accomplishing anything goal-oriented in I Am Bread. Because I liked breaking things so much, I thought it would be a treat to hop over to Rampage mode where you get points for breaking as much stuff as possible with this vicious baguette. I'm not sure if it was the difficulty of maneuvering the baguette due to the fact that you can only grab from either end of the loaf, or the fact that everything was stacked up asking to be smashed, instead of each act of destruction being an unwelcome trespass like in the main game mode. But I found that this Rampage mode mode quickly got stale. In fact, I had a hard time taking much joy in any of the extra game modes with its various playable gluten guys. There's Bagel Race, where you drive an unwieldy bagel along a course and are scored for time. 0G, where you use rocket thrusters to navigate your bread towards toastiness in a room devoid of gravity. And then, of course, Find the Cheese, where you find cheese. Clearly, a lot of work went into all of these modes, but they're missing that special spark of pure stupidity you find in the main game. Truly, the meat of this bread game lies in story mode. And yes, there is a story, and it's my favorite thing about I Am Bread. The story in this game is told via psychiatric reports that you can read before each level. You see, you've gained sentience in the house of an unemployed, recently divorced man who is having a real tough go of things. He has an even tougher go when he believes that he has had his house broken into and vandalized. But why would the intruder stop to make toast? Soon, these occurrences start happening all around the house, and there's always a piece of toast inexplicably amongst the chaos. Before long, this guy starts to have his suspicions, and your continued breadly activities make him absolutely accurately convinced that the bread in his house is coming to life. The only problem is, his psychiatrist obviously thinks he's crazy, and the more the man tries to expose the truth, the worse things get for him. This interplay quickly shifts your role from quirky piece of bread to malevolent antagonist whose violent determination completely dismantles a man's life as you and he hurtle towards a final confrontation. See, that's the kind of stupid that I'm all about. Me flopping around as a piece of bread can also be cosmic horror? Yes, please. But despite the premise being totally in my sweet spot, and as much fun as I had with it, its rough around the edges design can become frustrating. Because you're dropped into a room and told to just become toast, it's difficult to get a grasp of how exactly one becomes toast in any given room. That's fine and totally part of the experience, but it can be a bit of a drag spending 8 to 10 minutes struggling your way across the room for a total dead end. Some of the things the game asks of you, like getting out of this medicine cabinet, can be obnoxiously hard in a way that overpowers the charm of the game. And when you fought your way through the room to f it up right at the end because the wacky physics didn't work in your favor, for instance when you phase through an object and get stuck, it can be enough to make you wish you had never been baked. Thankfully, you can always hop over to free roam and get a lay of the land. I recommend doing this because I always had more fun when I knew what it was I needed to be doing rather than flopping around the room on reconnaissance. I Am Bread is one of those games that's hard to judge. It's supposed to be stupid, and it's supposed to be weird, and yes, it's supposed to be hard. And although it's a game that requires a lot of patience, I was already having fun in the first minute when I grabbed a knife to swing around with reckless abandon and rubbed jam all over myself. So if you can live your best possible life in the first minute of a game, what else can you really ask for? It's time to answer the question, would I play this game if I were not destined to do so? For I Am Bread, the answer is yes. This game isn't going on anyone's top games list, but it's a funny physics game that is good for a laugh and presents a unique challenge. For as many times as I found myself frustrated with I Am Bread, I had a couple truly memorable wins that made this game feel worth pushing through. I found myself wishing there was a bit more to the extra modes that made them feel worth playing, but they definitely don't subtract value from the game. And I'll always appreciate that developers somewhere worked really hard so I could feel morally conflicted in my actions as a slice of wholemeal bread. That does it for this episode. A big thanks to Groove Squirrel for suggesting this game. I love doing community game requests, and the one for episode 40 will take place on the Discord server. So come hang out there if you want to kick it with us and Woodlebot and yell games at me. Until next time, always remember which side your bread is buttered on, and I'll see you all soon on Random Game Reviews. Hey Woodlebot, if you were bread, what kind of bread would you be?
Oh my leaf, that's a tough question. Let me think about it. As a living tree stump, I am not really sure what kind of bread I would be. But if I had to choose, I would say I'd be banana bread with nuts. It's sweet like a dessert, but also has some healthy nuts for a bit of crunch. Plus, it reminds me of the delicious recipe we just talked about.
Good bot.